I can't tell you how many questions I get asking to see how I create designs on my iPad. So I thought I would show you a little about that process today.
All right. We had a question about someone just wanting to see me draw some things. So the reason I had this up is because it came in from Mary. Said she loved the new recipe bird towel, which it's evolved. We've decided to go light colored only because I will tell you that I am a sucker for a dark background towel, but our retailers that we sell a lot of our towels to really love a light background. So what I did is I have a ton of line work in this sucker. We're going to print this digitally, which is why I can get away with this amount of fine line work, just so you know. So we're going to print it on our flower sack cotton towels, but every single shape, except for one I just discovered that I missed a little shape right here. I need to fix that. It's missing its detail, but I just want bananas with like lots and lots of line work, lots of clipping masks here. And she just wanted to see if I could draw. I think that she asked specifically the petals that I'm drawing and the pretty scallop border. She's wondering if I just do that by hand or if I've created brushes for it. I do it all by hand. There is a different teacher out there. I honestly don't remember her name, but I remember someone told me that she actually, once she has something that she uses all the time, she makes a brush that's like a stamp brush, and then she reuses it all the time. I'm not going to demo that because it's not how I work, but in theory, if you use a shape over and over again, you can turn that into a brush. You can make a brush from a single shape, and then you can like literally put it down like you're stamping almost, and you could use that if you wanted to replicate shapes a lot. But like, let's take a look at all the layers we have in this bad boy. Also, this is my mom's ginger cookie recipe. She doesn't know yet, but we're going to print it on the Christmas towel, and I hope that she's really excited about it. She's always wanted to work for Gingiber. She can't, but we could put her cookies on a tea towel, right? So I have a heck of a lot of different layers here because of all the different textures that I've created with our clipping masks. So I'm going to duplicate real quick before I kind of dissect this so I don't ruin my finished product. Here we go. First, what I want to do is show you what happens when I hide my clipping masks. So I just hid that clipping mask on this flower, and I have all the flowers, the light flowers, on one layer. So we're going to hide that. I'm just going to show you the difference in depth that happens whenever I just take away all of the intentional little clipping mask textures that I made. It's still a cool design, but I was like, how can I make this have more depth to it? So that's where all these different clipping masks came from. So see, it's still a great design. And this is how sometimes things go from good to great. I understand composition. I understand color. I understand how to create that balance whenever it's a piece of art with lots of competing objects happening here, right? I'm good at that. But how do I take this from being like, it's beautiful and balanced to feeling like this is interesting and I want to lean in and see more and more? Sometimes you can use all the cool brushes, but sometimes for me, it is just a matter of grabbing the right brush, which in this case, all the main shapes were drawn with my studio pen. And then I took my 6B pencil, which I really love, and I used it to start creating tons of intentional like line work. So I will go over here to like this layer. Let's find the layer I want to play with. It's this one. So that right there, I'm going to create a new layer unless I'm out of layers. Nope, I'm not. And it's going to become a clipping mask because I'm going to set it to that. And now I can take a color. This is where you can begin to play with your colors and add more. So my base illustration has about 7 colors in it. And then because I know what I'm doing here, this is where I can give myself permission to add variations on that color to create some interesting contrast. So I'm going to grab the color from my cardinal, and I have my brush selected. I'm just going to start. Let's get closer here. Just going to start putting in lots of line work. Now this took forever. I'm not going to lie. The composition was easy for me because I'm fast. And I did try it first to see if I could like create a brush that would give me what I wanted, but it was so important for me to be able to be directional with where I was putting my lines on top of my shapes that I just decided, I'm going to watch a lot of TV and I'm going to just sit down and do this. And my tip of my finger is numb. I'm not going to lie. Like the tip of this finger is numb from holding a pen for so long, but it was worth it for me because what I ended up with was having a piece that was really pretty. And again, because I have my clipping mask, I can turn that off and on. I went from having a piece that was just like, I think I'd say great, but now it's greater. So when I turn these masks back on, I'm going to delete and I'm going to make you a clipping mask again. Boop. There we go. I'm going to turn them back on and you can just see what I mean about intentional direction. If I had just made a brush that could just do that, like lots of pencil lines, essentially, it'd be harder for me to control the direction. It would still take a lot of work. I could probably figure it out, but sometimes I don't have time to figure out the master solution. So I have to do what I know, which is I can sit down and scribble. And that's what I did. And so I have this piece now that actually feels a lot more hand-drawn, even though it's digital. And of course, a lot of the fun was in here in the background where that took the longest. So then when it comes to the scallop edges, I draw those by hand too. So that was the good old-fashioned symmetry tool. So we're going to go down here and it's in my red layer. So again, you guys know I like to group my colors. So I have this here, all my same color reds. So I'll just make a new layer for the sake of time. Oh, I don't want it to be a clipping mask though. Go away. I'll fix it later. We're going to go to drawing assist. We're going to make sure that my symmetry tool is turned on. It is. And I did choose, I had that problem that we talked about where you use a textured brush and then you fill it in with color and then it doesn't actually fill in properly. So let me just replicate that for you. I'm going to turn you off. There we go. So, just do it by hand. Go all the way around. Now I'm just going to go fast because time. And a lot of times my first draft has boo-boos like this, like I'll fix that. But if I try to make it perfect with my first drawing, it'll go a lot slower. If I can just get pencil down on paper, but digitally speaking, I can at least make sure that my spacing is correct or as close to correct as possible. And I can adjust from there and then spend the time at the end, like making sure that my shapes are just right. So I did a pretty good job spacing that out. I'm not super worried about that. I'm going to go ahead and to make it like we taught you before, if we want something to be like darker, we're going to duplicate that layer. Oh, I hit max layers. It's not going to let me show you. But the good news is this is a copy of my original. So I'm going to delete some layers and no one's going to care. Delete. I have a bracelet that my daughter made me that says delete chump. I'll tell you about that someday. But sometimes I say delete chump quite a bit. All right. If it seems like my life is magical, it's because sometimes it is. And sometimes my cool kids make my life even cooler because they just make me fun bracelets. All right. So if you couldn't see what I did there, I duplicated my layer and then I combined it. So hopefully I have, oops, the goal would have been that I would have closed any gaps so that I could just do the old fill tool, right? But I didn't. So now what I'm going to do is this. I am going to use the Studio Pen tool and I'm kind of just going to trace inside. So I'll still kind of have the slight texture on the outside, but I'm going to just trace on the inside again. And you can do whatever feels right for you, but this is just how I chose to do it. But, for the sake of time, I'll just close off a space so that I can fill it. So I can fill that because behind here, if I close this little friend, you can see what was really happening behind the background. So I have this. And because I'm using that smooth pen tool, then I can actually create a shape and fill it, but you all won't, no one will see that because this is in front of it, right? That's kind of how I do it. I think it's worth it to just take the time to draw these things by hand. I know people really want to have the shortcut to be able to use brushes and things, and brushes are great for some shortcuts, but sometimes you just have to do the exploration work of doing it completely by hand. If this works, if our retailers end up liking this design and kind of the way we're going with this, then I'll look for my next solution, which is, okay, now that I know it's going to sell and be worth it, how can I create the brush that will allow me to create the texture the way I want to save time? But in that early exploration, whenever, like, this is kind of a new thing for me, a new way to express my design style, like, it's worth it for me to take the time to do it. I hope that that was a little bit helpful for seeing kind of how I roll and how I make my decisions. I just really like to take the time to be slow sometimes, because the truth is, the busier I get with my business part of Gingiber and teaching, the less time I have to just sit down and play and try new things. And so if I am not intentional about that, like, yes, did I spend 16 hours drawing lines? Probably. But was it what I needed so that I could reconnect with myself creatively? And I was telling my husband, like, a lot of what I talk about with my more advanced students who are running businesses, we talk about CEO mindset. But the thing is, CEO mindset for artists does not mean blazer and tie. I told my husband, like, maybe CEO mindset for me is just getting to sit down in front of my TV and watch, Hallmark channel series and draw, because CEO Stacie means she gets to put her time where she wants to. And thank you for just letting me be who I am and showing up as I am, because I want to encourage you that that's you too. You get to show up as you are, the creative, quirky self that you might be, and put that into your artwork and how you share it with the world. And be brave, because creativity and showing up is the bravest thing that you can do, and you're capable of this. Our job is to set you up with the tools, but you've got to go do the work, put in those hours. And I know you can. So with that, I guess we'll say goodbye.
Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what other questions you have, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.